Anyone who's arrested, his or her belongings are taken from that person. If that person is going to be detained in the cells, whether it is your belt, your tie, your shoelaces, whether you've got the cell phone, money, it gets removed from the person, and we don't need consent. That gets deposited into a prisoner's property register, SAP 22.
There is one object in the sense of your trial that may quietly carry more weight than any confession. It's not a firearm, not an eyewitness, not even a statement, but it's a cell phone. The state says Bongani Ntanzi had a phone inside police custody for 8 months. Then they say that on 8 February 2021, police found it hidden inside his blankets at the Villere police station. But when you examine the timeline from the moment of his arrest, the phone appears to have been traveling, moving, registering tower pings across Gauteng. While it's alleged the owner was sitting in custody, today we break down day by day what happened from 16 June 2020 to February 2021. And we ask this question: was this phone in a cell, or was it on the road? Now, let's go part 1. 16 June 2020. Ntanzi was arrested in Phokeng police station. According to Sergeant Vusumuzi Mogane, the arrest was procedural. They knocked, identified themselves, informed him that he was a suspect in a Nongoma case, read him his rights, took him into custody. That's an important detail. Ntanzi maintains that his phones were confiscated immediately on the day of arrest. That claim is very crucial because if the police took the phones on 16 June, then every moment after the date must be accounted for and documented. Chain of custody is not optional in criminal law. It is fundamental. Part 2. On 17 June, Ntanzi was allegedly being held and questioned in Pretoria North, but Vodacom records introduced in court revealed something strange, very strange. A number linked to Ntanzi received a 43-second call at 9:40 a.m. Registered tower pings in Vosloorus, pinged in Sandton, registered activity near the R21 by N1 corridor. Now let's slow down. Pretoria North, Vosloorus, Sandton. These are entirely different regions of Gauteng. If Ntanzi was in custody in Pretoria North under police control, how was his phone moving across Gauteng?
MTC was on the 17th at 9:40:22. The number ending 8460 received a call that lasted 43 seconds, and that came from the number ending 7786, and Pretoria North was the tower.
There are only a few logical possibilities. 1. He physically had the phone and was transported around with it. 2. Someone else had the phone. 3. The phone data is being misunderstood. But what cannot exist logically is one person in a holding cell while their phone independently tours the province. That is not speculation, that is physics.
On the 17th of June at 10:08:34, the number ending 1698 called the number ending 8460, which went into voicemail.
Part 3. On 18 June 2020, Mohane testified that They transported Ntanzi to Sibanye Still Water in Western area to verify his alibi. Records showed he was not at work on 26 October 2014. Fine. But here's the question. During this trip, under escort, where was the phone? Was it in his pocket, in police custody, already booked as evidence? Because if it was seized on the 16th, there must be documentation. Every movement of that device must be logged. Part 4, 17 June 2020. The state says Ntanzi made his first confession at Moroka police station. The same day, police allegedly took him back to Poking to search for a hoodie. They didn't find a hoodie, but they say they found ammunition. Meanwhile, the defense highlighted something. Long unexplained vehicle stops, a 4-hour stop at an engine garage in Alberton, which previously they claimed they never stopped. Multiple jurisdictions movement. Now overlay that with phone data. If the phone was with Ntanzi, it should mirror his route. If the phone was not with him, its movement may reveal who actually had the phone. That distinction matters, because if the phone was being moved independently of him, then the possession in custody argument begins to fracture. Part 5. During the cross-examination, questions arose about whether the phone was taken for analysis, possibly to Heidelberg, while Ntanzi was being questioned in Pretoria. If that happened, who transported the phone? Was it officially seized? Was it sealed in an exhibit bag? Was there a SAP 13 entry immediately? In criminal proceedings, evidence does not float. It is booked, logged, signed, sealed. Every transfer documented. If that paper trail is incomplete, reasonable doubt is not emotional. It is procedural. Part 6. Now we jump forward. 8 February 2021. At Vilera police station, Mohane and the late Sergeant Mabena allegedly visited Ntanzi's cell. Then they say they found a Samsung phone hidden in his blankets. They seized it. Forensic experts later testified it contains photos linked to the case. It shows communication with the family. It shows communication with the lawyer. This becomes central to the state's position. Ntanzi had access to the phone while in custody, but here's the problem. If he had the phone hidden for 8 months, why are there documented tower pings immediately after arrest? That suggests movement inconsistent with cell detention. Why are there geographical discrepancies within 24 hours of arrest? Either the police found it in February was a different device, or the SIM history predates detention, or the phone was not in his possession the entire time. But the state's narrative suggests continuity. 8 months, 1 phone, hidden in a blanket. That continuity aligns with the early June 2020 data, does it? Part 7. Another layer complicates this. The defense has argued that Ntanzi was not brought before court within 48 hours for the Miwa matter. Police say he was being processed for other cases. But if he was being moved between jurisdictions, and if the phone was being moved as well, was proper documentation maintained? Because the more transfers that occurs, the more opportunities exist for mismanagement. This is not about conspiracy. This is about procedure. Procedure protects the integrity of evidence. Without it, evidence becomes vulnerable. Part 8. What must be proven? For the 8-month cell phone narrative to hold, the state must establish 1. The exact moment the phone was seized. 2. Continuous documented custody from 16 June 2020 onwards. 3. Clear explanation for tower pings in locations inconsistent with detention. 4. proof that the February 2021 phone is the same device active in June 2020. If even one of those pillars weakens, the structure shakes, because criminal trials do not operate on assumptions. They operate on proof. A phone does not testify. It doesn't speak. It doesn't defend itself. But its data does. And data either aligns or it contradicts. From 16 June 2020 to February 2021, we have an arrest in Phokeng, custody in Pretoria, tower pings in Vosloorus and Sandton, a confession in Moroka, a later discovery in Valeria. The timeline must be clean, linear, logical. If it bends, if it overlaps, if it becomes geographically impossible, then the court must ask the hardest questions. Because in the end, the credibility of the narrative depends on one simple principle. A phone cannot be in two places at once. And if it was moving while its owner was locked up, then someone else needs to explain who was holding it and why. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Hot Seat SA. See you on the next video.